Yes, sir. Button, there you go.
Let's get done.
Good evening, everybody. I'd like to welcome everybody to the budget work session number 5, and I'd like to ask everybody that can to stand as we start every meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All right, well, the first item is information technology on page 81.
No.
I'm sorry, 120, planning on 129. That's why I was open to 129.
Okay.
It was my plan to see if you were paying attention.
Who was checking on us, right? Okay. Mr. Mayor, City Council, and residents out there on television. This evening we're going to start with the Planning and Community Development budget, and I'll read the description of the department for those who should be informed. The Department of Planning and Community Development provides professional support by making recommendations on developmental proposals to the city manager and the city council and conducting long-range special studies. The department's mission is to influence in a positive and constructive way and with significant citizen involvement the growth and physical development of the city, thereby ensuring its consistency with approved plans and the use policies and guidelines of the City Council and development regulations of Prince George's County. The department reviews individual development proposals, prepares and coordinates plans and studies and recommendations, and participates in public policy planning. The Planning and Community Development Department also provides technical assistance and staff liaison to the Bowie Advisory Board, Environmental Advisory Committee, Bowie Green Team Executive Committee, and the department also distributes land development and demographic information, reviews county and state legislation affecting the city, and negotiates annexations and agreements. That's the general mission of the specific mission of the department. Its objectives for 2019 were primarily met. One of a significant note was number D there, which was implement the city-sponsored 5K walk-run event on Veterans Day weekend and last fall. That was the first time we did that. It was quite a success, even though it was about 40 degrees with a 15-mile-an-hour wind. And yours truly jogged in toward the end of the run and made it successfully. And that was a very well received, thanking and honoring our veterans. Also, we'd like to just talk about just a moment the work to complete design plans for MD 127. That project is still in design, and last progress meeting was held in November of 2017. Drawings are being revised to address layout issues. Their project meetings are expected to resume in 2019. The money is available for the engineering and design for year 1. This budget has no significant changes to it. There are no active annexations or such. Presently, there are some potentials, but no active annexation action going on presently. The objective for 2020 will be to participate in the update of the 2006 Bowie and vicinity area master plan, work to complete design plans for MD 127, continue annexing adjacent properties wherever possible in accordance with the city's annexation policy. We have received the one application annexation that's being reviewed, but we have not taken any further steps on that one. And that was the Greater Mount Nebo associated with the indoor court facility, and we won't act on that until you all have made a decision on direction when it comes to that. Moving down the line here, you will see that the full-time equivalencies are 5 persons. That is most of the money spent are salary and wages and fringe benefits. $486,900 for salary and wages, $179,900 for fringe benefits, $3,400 for contract technical services associated with traffic capacity and safety and environmental reviews, and others. Of significant note is the 13,000 on page 132, 13,100, which are subscription memberships in APA, AICP, which are planning and zoning associations for which we are members, and other planning and Maryland Planning Commission Association, and membership dues in the Anacostia Trails Heritage Area, ATHA. Any questions to the director or myself regarding the planning budget?
Questions? Mr. Stepp.
Good evening. Yes, a couple quick things. One, as we're working on updating the 2006 Bowie Vicinity Area Master Plan, one of the major areas of interest that I have is the 450 corridor. I think we just exchanged some emails this week about Elm Street developers being interested in pushing forward with the development of the Jesuit property, the White Marsh property. I'm very, very interested in making sure that the zoning in that particular corridor remains low and isn't upgraded and doesn't involve too much new development. And so, keeping apprised of that will be really important. And also in the master plan rewrite, making sure that we're on the same page as far as kind of the types of expectations we have for that corridor will be really, really, really important to me. That's more of a statement than a question. The second thing is, I think I brought this up once before, and I guess it would have been with Una Cooper when we were talking about communications one evening, but it relates to you guys as well. I'm interested in having a survey done of the businesses in Bowie. We've done a lot of community surveys with residents. I'm kind of curious as to efforts to reach out to businesses themselves of various types, just to get a sense of the sorts of challenges that they're facing, anything that the city could be doing to make their lives a little bit easier. A lot of the things I'm sure that they'll have to tell us will have nothing to do with the city, but I think it would just be useful and interesting data to get a sense of kind of what the needs are of the business community, and I suspect this would probably involve this department to some extent.
Yes, we've gotten that mission from the last session with John Henry and Una taking that.
Great, thank you.
Mr. Wolfe.
Thank you. I want to just take a quick moment to reiterate what Councilman Esteve was saying. Same thing, concerns about the 450 corridor, specifically the Jesuit property, but also the ongoing concern I have with the potential for apartments and other type of non-suitable development in the areas such as the Levitt areas where it's not really originally envisioned to be higher density developments. I want to make sure that as we're moving forward with the coming year that we maintain that as an area of concern and response. And to your to the point earlier also about the information on the Jesuit stuff, ears always to the ground on my end too. I got a lot of constituents that are quite concerned about that too. So anything that we hear, it's great, and do greatly appreciate all the good work. Thank you.
Dr. Trout.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. City Manager, under the objectives for 2020, I think it's about time for us to really think about trying to get some sort of a objective or priority list for upgrading of Route 301. We need to get the discussion started at some point so that we could. I know the money is supposed to be tight right now, but if we don't get on the list, then we will be in the rears as far as trying to get our name and get the work done. Because we're going to be on a. It's going to be on a. It's not going to be something that's going to happen immediately anyway. But my thinking is, at some point in time, we've got to mention this and get this on the state's mind.
Well, we have a meeting coming up with the District 3 engineer in the next few weeks. But and we can talk about this, but if you can help me out, by upgrade you mean widening?
Yes, I mean widening it. Let me give you an example of what I think would really work. If you go back to the way Branch Avenue, which is Route 5, used to be, before they did a complete remodeling, upgrading of that particular area. I think that's the way we need to be looking at doing something along those lines. One thing that comes to mind is the fact that the crossover of 214 over 301, with the bridge being there, that crossover, there's going to have to be some re-engineering to look at that, because the way it's constructed right now, it is going to be very difficult to try to add a lane in either direction where that bridge is. So we really need to get the state, get their engineering people to look at this, to look at ways that we can make this Route 301 become more viable. Because we're looking at a number of different entities that are businesses, expansion on 301. And currently, any additional expansion on 301 is really going to put the traffic study in a very bad situation. You're not going to get like an A or a B. I mean, you're going to get like an F, a ED or an F as far as the traffic flow is concerned. So we really need to be proactive and start the ball rolling now, knowing that we probably won't get anything done for a good little while, because we've been working on 197 for a very long time. Don't want to jeopardize 197, but we need to make it known that 301 is a priority also.
All right, we'll ask the engineer how we start that process at our next meeting in a couple of weeks.
Okay, thank you very much.
Dr. Sinclair?
All right, yes, thank you, Mayor. I want to say thank you for the 5K. I participate in that as well, so it's nice to see that we have events such as a 5K in our community and that is free for residents and for a great cause. So just a quick question, if we were planning to have the 5K again this year, or if it was just a one-time event?
No, we're planning to do it this year too.
Okay. And next, some of my colleagues here has addressed the 197 master plan. If we can keep council apprised of upcoming meetings, I think that there was mentioned of a progress meeting for our next objective. If we can keep us apprised of that. And my last question would be for the Green Team Action Plan, so Objective F. If perhaps outside of today's meeting, if I could see a list of the activities and events that are in line with that Green Team Action Plan.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay. I just have one question, and then go back to either city manager or staff. Have we ever gotten a final resolution to that problem we had up there in the B section where the conversion of a large lot to multiple dwellings? Did we ever resolve that? I mean, has the county made the change?
Yes, there was, Mayor, there was a limit of one new house, and that house is now under construction.
No, I know that, but what we were trying to do was to get the definition changed in the county code that says that if a lot that has one house on it is of such a size that it could be subdivided.
Right.
And we wanted to, the consensus of the council was to try to get that amended to take that out, because those large lots on the entrances were there for a purpose.
Right. We did share that concern with the park and planning staff, and they conducted some analysis using the GIS, Geographic Information Systems. They did not feel that the problem was extensive enough to make any other kind of change. I still believe it's something that we want to reiterate as a zoning issue. As we go into the next master plan, there may be an opportunity to change some of the zoning to prevent lots from being subdivided. So that's still an open issue.
Would it be helpful for us to do some kind of a little reminder letter, you know, to go into that rezoning thing?
Well, they're aware of our position because we made those same comments during the zoning rewrite, and again, they did not address it as part of that effort. And at the last hearing on the public hearing, I made it clear that this was a point that we made at the very beginning, and they failed to address it. And hopefully, in the upcoming county-wide map amendment, they'll try to address
Okay.
the concern that you're
Yeah, I don't doubt that we're interested in it a little bit more than park and planning is. Any other questions on planning? All right, go to IT on page 81.
Mr. Mayor, the IT, Information Technology, the Information Technology Department delivers economical, technical products, solutions, and services to all city departments. The major goal of the department is to ensure sound technological solutions are implemented to assist the departments in the delivery of city services by providing reliable communications and a modern infrastructure. The goal is to accomplish by collaborating with the city departments to plan for efficient and effective use of technology. The one statement of fact, every department of the city in the city is exceptionally dependent on automation. By that I mean if the automation fails, the mission could stop because of the inability to manage it using the computer systems and automation systems. Not to inflate Mr. Peterson's opinion of himself or his department, but I would argue that if you look at the mission of the city and you notice the dependency of each department from code to finance to the police department, the most critical and essential department we have is our IT department because of the technology that involves today. If you take the police, you got the dash cams, body cams, and telecommunications. All of our code enforcement uses Munis to manage the code enforcement process, and in every component of the city, there's IT. So it's an essential organization, and it's the foundation for us today because that's the way of the world. So the objectives for 19 except number A was completed. Number 2 has been scheduled for completed in FY 2020. C there, the current phone system redundancies and determine cost-effective ways to improve. Carrier service and phone system infrastructure will be evaluated, and we're looking to do that in 2019. That's a significant undertaking by the department. And additional phone system servers have been added to the system to improve the redundancy of call recording and for the police department call center or dispatch center. This project will be completed in March of 2019. 3 physical phone servers were converted to virtual services in order to improve redundancy. This was completed in January 19, and additional redundancies are being evaluated. We have service in this building, we have backup service in other buildings, and of course that's one of the reasons why our generators are so important, so they can pick up the loads, and that, we'll talk about that a little later on. The feasibility and establishment of utility for Wi-Fi, we talked about that. That wasn't cost effective, so we talked with the council member who sponsored that one. In 2020, the department intends to explore applications offered by Office 365 that are not currently being used and determine if any application can benefit the city's operations. Secondly, and they want to complete this by June 30, 2020, review existing software packages and solutions to determine possible vulnerabilities and duplications, utilize information to reduce institutional vulnerabilities and potentially produce cost savings. We want to review and make recommendations by December 2019. Coordinate with the business operations manager to produce a plan to add the new Bowie Ice Arena to the city's network. And of course, we're going to be bringing that construction bid to you all on June the 3rd. Plan will be completed in December 31st, 2019. Create a formal strategic plan for the IT department. It will serve as a guide for how the organization will use technology and help accomplish its goals. And plan should be created by June 30, 2020. The The significant changes in this department are one additional FTE in network administrator, which would be an X-116 appointment, personnel rank, step, and position, also at 87,287, and an additional full-time FTE for a technical specialist, X-113, at 71,452. If you look at the city, city's organization, it's been approximately almost 13 years since we added any personnel to the IT department, whereas our dependency has increased at least 150% since I've been here and before. So this is the most appropriate increase in personnel that I've made. So as you can see down here in the bottom of 82, under FTEs, the number would go from 13 to 15. And since this is a personnel-heavy department and a service-heavy department, salary and wages are at $1,195,400, fringe benefits at $347,600. We have $124,300 for programming costs for systems and modifications and off-site storage. We have a communications budget there at $341,500 for telephone services and others, and cell phones and all that sort of thing. We have a maintenance and repair contracts in place for one system or another for $497,200. Down in commodities, that's a significant budget item at $404,700. That includes $190,000 for a subscription to GovSense, which supports many city services and a myriad of them, and provide costs for personal computers, servers, monitors, printers, and all those things that are essential to our performance here. And that concludes my discussion. Any questions, we're ready to take them.
Questions, Mr. Marcos?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Mr. City Manager. I was just curious, what software or firewalls or whatever do we have in place to protect us from what happened like up in Baltimore as far as the ransomware in Atlanta? I mean, there's issues happening all over the country, and it's kind of sad. It almost seems like you spend so much money trying to fix it, it can't. You end up paying the actual ransom just to get your system back. What do we have in place to protect us from that?
Well, I don't necessarily want to go into specifics of what we have in place. I can say that we do have firewalls and such in place. We also have backup redundancies in place to mitigate situations like Baltimore. Happy to go into it in a more detailed, this is probably not the best.
Does that all fall under the GovSense software? Is that part of the?
No, that's just a piece of software. This would be more so under repair and maintenance, things of that nature for subscriptions of other products that we use. But GovSense is more of a tool that staff would use to provide service to the city.
Dr. Trout?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. City Manager, under objectives for 2019, item number C talks about the redundancy of the phone system. Have we set up an exercise where we test the redundancy of the system in the event that we create a crash?
Well, we haven't done a specific. They've been tested and they've been battle tested, if you will. Things have happened, and we have successfully been able to weather any sort of storm that's come from the call center.
Is that something that we should be looking at? I'm looking at it. I'm kind of thinking tabletop, but this may not be a tabletop exercise. But I'm looking at it from the standpoint that can we create a fictitious, let's say, event where the system is challenged?
Well, what we could do is when Mr. Cornwell sets up its tabletop, we can include an IT cyber attack or a failure of the
Right.
system
Right.
where we have to recover from it. But we have had, as we set up our dispatch operations, we've had one or two telecommunications challenges that our staff reacted to very quickly. And one of them, one of the problems we have now, if you look in the equipment acquisition, we're going to buy a new generator from Kent Hill Center. So that when there's a power outage like it was this weekend, we don't have our systems crash because they lose power. And those sort of things, and that's why we put that, I think it's a $90,000 purchase in, specifically to relieve us of the biggest danger to I see around dispatch operations is losing power and then having to hopefully fall back to the county, which we don't want to do. We want to dispatch our own people.
Okay.
But we can certainly include that in the tabletop discussion.
Yeah, maybe we may want to look at that as an objective for 2020, like objective number 5, just to prepare ourselves in the event of an unforeseen event.
So participate in tabletop exercise regarding the telecommunication.
I don't really know if we want to call it a tabletop exercise. I'm just using that for lack of a better description.
Right.
But whatever term that you choose to designate it, but the idea is just to make sure that we are protected in the event of an unforeseen event on our system, so that we don't lose the data and the system is able to be recovered.
Well, we'll call it a readiness exercise.
Okay? All right, thank you.
Mr. Wolfley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A couple quick questions for you. One is on software as a service as a first choice for our solutions versus on-prem. Where do we stand on that philosophy? And I know we're using Office 365. That's a clear example. What other solutions do we have that fall in that category?
Well, the GovSense software that we're implementing, that is all software as a service. The first objective that we have here is to expand the use of Office 365. We want to try to utilize, there's a product in that suite called Teams. It's a hybrid of, say, chat, Skype, things of that nature to expand our capability to be able to have meetings with folks that are not necessarily on site. I know George in Public Works probably gets tired of having to drive to City Hall all the time to participate in meetings. He probably would love to be able to be in his space but also be connected to that to the mothership, if you will. My philosophy is we should try to have as many pieces of software in the cloud as possible to sort of go to what Councilmember Troff was saying about our readiness to be ready for attacks and things of that nature. The more things that we do have in the cloud, the more prepared we would be for those types of attacks and such.
Thank you. That's good to hear. I think that there's more and more there's a move towards the commoditization of a lot of these software packages and the infrastructure that supports them. And to the extent that we can take advantage of SaaS, I think that's a good thing. For the infrastructure that we have on-prem, where do we have the server upgrades and costs associated with that?
Repair and maintenance. Most of our repair and maintenance is covered on that line item.
Under $4,000? Oh, no, up
400.
There we go. I'm sorry, that's buildings. I was going to say, we're living pretty cheap. Okay, I see $500,000. Thank you. And that covers the software or just the hardware or the underlying operates? Both?
Both, yes.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. Off-site backup, how frequent and do we have that built in where on the cost side?
That happens on various levels. Like I said, I don't necessarily want to go into too much of it, but definitely almost down to the minute.
Okay.
Down 2 minutes, our backups are occurring.
And we're covering that as off-site, and those expenses are under what category for that?
Repair and maintenance?
Okay. All right. Very good. And let's see, the final thing is, does Office 365 have a better solution than what we are currently using for access to email on mobile devices? I don't know if there are other alternatives. I'm doing the login and whatnot. I don't know if there's a client server. I know we used to use Good or something like that as a secured email client.
We don't allow apps and such to be to download city email onto, say, sort of a personal device. If you had a city phone, you might be able to take advantage of some of those things, but for personal devices, we don't allow, for security reasons, we don't allow city email to be downloaded to apps and such.
All right, let's chat about that offline, guys.
Sure.
I've got some curious, I don't want to say curious, I have some thoughts on that too. Thank you kindly. I think that's it. Thank you.
Any other questions, IT? Thank you very much. Next item on equipment acquisition, page 153.
The equipment acquisition, if you look at page 153, and you'll see that that our proposed expenditures are for 19-20 fiscal year, it's $2,025,700. And if you look at the bottom line on page 155, that shows you what we reserved for equipment acquisition up until 2019. In order to meet our obligations that we determined in this proposed budget, we transferred $408,900 to get us to the $2,025,700. If we go to page 156, if you look at the FY20 column, you can see specifically the things that we're purchasing here. And the monies that we transferred over to make our purchases, that would be item number 21 is we're going to replace a Chevy, 2003 Chevy pickup truck. Item number 10480, which is a 250 kV generator. That's the one we're getting for Ken Hill. It is a mission essential since we do maintain a backup service at Ken Hill. And of course, as we establish our redundancies, we're replacing, we're going to get replacing a Honda Civic hybrid, and we brought over $5,000 to make that purchase for utility truck. We're going to pay $56,000 for that, and we're replacing the one that was 13. And if you go to the next page, you'll see that we are replacing several trash trucks, and we're replacing 121, 122, 125, 128, and so we're, 180, and we're replacing those trash trucks this year. We have a operational budget of 14 trash trucks that services the 18,000 homes that we have in the city of Bowie, and we have 3 or 4 backups that keeps us in a position where we can always meet our mission. If you look at page 158 there's we're replacing a police vehicle and adding to that one. And moving to 159, if you look at the FY20 columns, you'll see where we're replacing one piece of equipment or another, in particular a laser shot system at 3065, generator, transfer switch for a forklift, well, excuse me, the 1990 GPX forklift, we're replacing that. And in the same category, we're replacing required pieces of equipment on 160. We are, total, like I said, the total amount of money that was transferred is 408, which gets us to that $2,025,000 number. In order for us to continue to provide the services that we need, that our residents actually demand, we have to keep our equipment in good operating position, and that's the purpose. Is we scrutinize this. Each piece of equipment was scrutinized for looking at its age, reliability, maintenance history before we put it on the list. And to my chagrin, I did have more maintenance management experience in my Army days than I ever wanted. So we have to keep the equipment operating and provide the services. Any questions, Mr. Mayor, on the acquisition equipment?
Question, Mr. Wolfley?
A couple of quick questions. On page 154, I see we're replacing a Ford Escape Hybrid at $32,000, but yet on the emergency management side, we have an estimated $48,000 expense for a Civic Hybrid. Is there a meaningful difference between the two vehicles?
So which page are you on, sir?
Same page. It's the first one is I'm sorry. It's on page 154. Under City Manager, we have replaced Ford Escape Hybrid number 3. It's at $32,000. That sounds fine. The question then becomes further down in the Public Safety, where we have the Honda Civic Hybrid number 9, and looks like we're going to replace that one, but at expected cost of about $48,000. I didn't know what the reason was we would have that significant of an increase in price for that vehicle, or if there's a different type of...
The hybrid. The emergency management vehicle is an SUV, sir.
Okay.
Here for a new Chevy Tahoe emergency lighting, $56,000. That's the one for the emergency management director.
Yeah, and then the one above it?
Yeah, well, let us look into that one. I'm not sure why it's more expensive, other than the fact that it has to be outfitted with emergency management equipment, radios, and that. But I'll check that for you.
All right, thank you. You answered my question about the number of trucks we've got, which is great, and great job for everybody keeping those things rolling. The ice arena, we have replacing the ice resurfacing machine. I assume that's transferable to the new infrastructure?
Yes.
Perfect. Thank you.
You can drive it all the way over there on the
I
ice.
drive it, yeah, up with the flashers on, right?
It's the only piece of equipment we have named a Zamboni.
That's exactly
Well,
it.
I have a GMC truck that can take it over there. An American truck, too.
All right.
Thank you.
Any other questions on, let me just say, first off, that I've said it before, this particular section doesn't look like much, but this is the underpinning of one of the strengths of our budget and our financial husbandry, I would just say. We could not capitalize this program like this today. So I want to go back and thank, people like Charlie Moore and Dick Logan, all those people that created this thing back in the 80s, because as a result of this, and by keeping this up, that's why our budget goes up like this and the rest of them go like this. So thank you for maintaining this and keeping us on our toes on all this, because like I say, this is one of the core elements of our AAA bond rating. Our general fund summaries 21 to 31.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. On page 21, and this section is a summary of everything that we've basically introduced to you during the other 4 sessions of the budget meetings. We're showing you the expenditures by object: personnel services, contractual services, commodities, other charges, capital outlay, debt service, and transfer. So you can see what those numbers look like in total. Page 22 breaks down the same information by function. These are our expenditures for FY '20. We also give you the history for FY 2018's actual and what we expect to spend in FY '19, along with the proposal for FY '20. Page 24, again, is just another configuration of the expenditures. This is done by departments, basically giving you the same information, but underlining each division under the department name. Page 26 is dealing with a summary of our revenue sources. As you can see, our major revenue sources is real property and personal property taxes at $31 million. Governmental revenue is 14.9, close to 15 million there. And the use of the fund balance for this year is $5,894,200. On page 27, we give you a look at the 10-year revenue by source. This is our total revenue on a 10-year trend from 2011 through 2020. As you can see, our personal property tax steady inclines. Even though our rates have been the same, what we're looking at is the increase in assessments over those years. Page 28, again, is our state shared taxes, income tax, admissions and amusement, motor vehicle taxes, and police protection. We give you a 10-year trend on that. Page 29, more trend data, expenditures by functions over the last 10 years. On page 30, it's a per capita information for the last 10 years. Based on our population, we can look at total general fund, expenditures, and revenue. And on page 31 is a summary of our overlapping taxes. This page describes the city's tax rates, which include the city of Bowie, the county, the state, park and planning, WSSC, WSTC, and as you can see, our total rate for the proposed year is $1.68. Any questions?
Questions on, okay, go, Mr. Cole.
Yes, a couple quick questions. Remind me on page 22, under business operations, under general government.
Business operations, general government. Yes.
What's the drive on that one?
Earlier last year, Mr. Lott refocused this department. This is part of what used to be public information.
Gotcha.
It was dissected into communications and business operations. So we didn't have any 2018 expense for it.
Well, you had 600,000 last year.
Yes.
1.46 year to date, okay.
Yes, and the larger portion of that is the money that we're going to be spending on the CT, on the INET.
INET,
Yeah.
okay.
And the funding is from the INET.
I was about to say that one
Yes.
is offset. All right.
But all the security cameras and things of that nature.
On page 31, we see the real property tax rates, the overlapping chart, or the chart that shows the overlapping rates. If I read this correctly, our city tax at 40 cents and then our county tax within for Bowie residents is 84 cents, which suggests to me that in the end, the net cost for a citizen of Bowie in terms of taxes is 24.8 cents. Is that right? Is that the way you'd interpret that? That is to say, because they're living in Bowie and getting all the services, they're paying 24.8 cents more in taxes than they would if they were living outside the neighborhood.
Well, I think it's just the opposite, sir. They're
I'm sorry,
paying
I'm
less
sorry, yes.
taxes.
No. Overall, you still pay more in taxes. 84 cents is what we pay within Bowie for the county,
Right.
but we're also paying 40, so that's 24.8 cents more than what you'd be paying if it was just a county tax, right?
No, if you were in the county, you would be paying $1 if you lived in the city. Lived outside the city.
Right.
Difference is if
You pay
live in the
$1.
city,
If you live in the
county
city,
taxes
due to the
reduce
tax
by 50%.
differential, you pay the 84 cents. So that's something that citizens see on their taxes. The city of Bowie doesn't benefit from that.
Yeah.
Good.
All right. Let me try to see if I can bring some clarity here. What
Could
we
you
have.
elaborate on that, Dan?
Oh, we've got 3 people talking.
Okay. So what
Councilman, let me explain this to you.
Daniel,
I think what you're saying is because of the tax differential being almost 16 cents different, we would subtract that from the, you would say you'd subtract that from the 40 cents
Right.
that the Bowie residents pay, which means that there's basically about 25 cents in personal real estate property tax in addition to what everybody else in the county typically pays.
Yeah. So for being a resident of the city, we pay, for the privilege, it's 25 cents per thousand, and that's what the actual incremental cost is to being a city resident.
By subtracting out the tax differential, you're correct, yes.
Okay. All right, thank you.
You guys have lost me now.
In any way you cut it, it's good.
Well, what it means is that...
Hold on. Let me explain what my understanding. First of all, when you look at just the county, the two columns for county, that is just the county tax only. But there's 27 municipalities within the county. So you got to factor that in too, because those other 27 municipalities, they're also paying taxes. So a tax for municipality A, let's say a port town, they would be paying that second column, which would be the city column, which would be their taxes, whatever that is. Then they would also be paying, for the most part, $1, because a lot of them do not get tax differential of the other 26 municipalities. So that's the way I understand it. So it's not like you being, it's not an impediment to live in the city of Bowie.
No.
It's actually an advantage, because when you look at, if you pick up the taxes for, let's say, Laurel, New Carrollton, or Greenbelt, look at those municipalities. They would have figures there under the city. And going back to previous charts, their taxes are more than ours.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. We are the second lowest of all the municipalities that we saw. It's on that page that we got in, I believe it was this book right here, the mid-year review. Okay, so we're really not at a disadvantage, you're at an advantage by living in the city of Bowie. And that's the misnomer that you hear from people that live outside the city of Bowie, thinking it costs too much to live inside the city of Bowie when it really doesn't.
No,
I think that was my point, and the cost of living in the city of Bowie is 25 cents per thousand.
Yeah.
That's it. Even though the tax rate is 40 cents per thousand, the marginal cost is 24.8 cents, which is a darn good price for the services we're providing.
But there's another number on that chart that I always like to draw people's attention to. See, the city's tax rate is 40 cents. Our park and planning taxes is 29.4. So 70% of, they're paying, what, about 2/3 of what we pay. and look at the services that the city provides versus what Park and Planning provides for us. And where are you getting the best buy?
Okay. Yeah.
Enough said. I feel sorry for people who don't live here. All right, everybody's personal favorite, the appendix on 279.
Mr. Mayor, the appendix involves the page 279, which is the total personnel by department. And I'll just go over them quickly. We've got 26.6 people in the city manager's office, 87.5 authorized in the police department, 15 in IT, 10.3 in finance, 129 in community services, the most diverse department that we have, of course. Planning's got 5, Public Works, and in total has 105.5, and Water Sewer Fund has 35, for a total of 414.7 FTEs in the city. If you go to 280 and 281, depict our plan of compensation as of July 1st, 2019. That includes a 2.7% COLA and a breakdown by grade. If you, it continues over to an hourly scale that's listed on 282, and then there is a classification plan on 283 through 285, which breaks down and shows you the grades of specific positions within the city. And as you can know, we have the XY schedule, X being a 37.5 and per week, and Y is 40-hour a week. And as we proceed to through the appendix, you'll see that we have on page 286, we have the demographics and economic statistics for the city as of 20 up to 2018, and 58,000 people. Per capita income 45,643. We have very low unemployment rate of 3.8 and a rather high educational level of 14.8 in the city. If you look at page 187, which addresses the assessed value and estimated actual value of the taxable property as of 2018, we have $7,060,655,000 in our tax base, which is very good. Moving to page 288, it talks about our principal property taxpayers in the city, and Maryland Science and Technology, Bowie Mall, Governor's Green Apartments, FRG Bowie LLC, Harmony Place, Heather Ridge Apartments, Free State Mall, Storage Hannah Hilltops, Collington Plaza Inc., and Bowie Corporate Center and Limited Partners, and for a total value of this is in millions, right? In $589,239,552, which is 8.5% of the tax base. And the principal employers are the ones you all are familiar with: Prince George's County, Inovaline, City of Bowie itself, Baysox, Prince George's County Safety, Public Safety Commission, U.S. Census Bureau, Computer Facility, Walmart, Lowe's, Giants, Macy's. By the way, I was at Macy's Saturday. It was very crowded. It was like Christmas over there, so I was really happy. I want you to know. Had trouble getting waited on, but that was a good thing. There was too many people. Going to page 290 here, which is our grants consolidation chart. We're looking at, in the grants are listed in the project title. We're seeking $3,290,000 in grants for FY20. And of course, the last few pages of the glossary, and I must say that of the 4 cities I worked in, we didn't have a glossary like this, and our final product in the budget is a very comprehensive reference document that, you know, any layperson can read our budget and be able to cipher things out, and it's written for the citizens to read. That concludes the appendix, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Any questions on the appendix?
No, Mr. Mayor, I don't believe so.
Visitors, Deb, you want a question on the appendix?
I just wanted to say a real big thank you to staff, particularly Mr. Matthews, for your tremendous work on all this. We know that you sleep a lot less during budget session and look forward to voting for our budget next week. And just a big thank you to everybody for your time.
Okay. All right, I do have 2 items left. We've got 2 wrap-up items. One is a request to review our contribution to the Education Committee, and I'll defer to Mr. Wolfley and get a summary and a recommendation.
Yeah, what I'd like to see us do is see if we can add maybe about $5,000 in for the Education Committee to use for programs, to fund programs that benefit our students in the schools within the city, for programs such as robotics teams and Destination Imagination. Oftentimes, these teams will compete, and they have a tough time getting to you know, pay all their bills if they do succeed. So I'd like to see if we can add that into both this year's as well as next year's.
Any questions?
If that's a motion, I'd like to second it.
Well, we'll just do a consensus now. Is there any questions on it? Is there consensus that we do this? No, hearing none? Okay.
Well, we will add a line item, sir.
I'm sorry?
We will add a line item to the budget. Which department? Community Services.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sure. Got it.
Okay, item 2 is, wait a minute. This past year, you know, I was at Annapolis a couple of times, and there was a move to change the taxing structures to the automobile dealerships. We have about 8 dealerships that are either in the city or abut the city. Well, there's 2 in the city, and there's like 6 within 6 blocks of the city. Currently, we apply our personal property taxes to the fleets that they maintain on their lots. I personally don't believe that the tax was ever intended for that. It was really originally intended for computers and electronic equipment, phones, and that sort of thing. And a couple other issues popped in my mind listening to some of the testimony in Annapolis. One is that the dealerships don't actually take ownership of the cars until point of sale, so it's not really their property. I think what this does is it's given that the county exempts them from the same kind of tax on the county tax bill. What we do by charging this particular tax is put our dealers at an economic disadvantage and a sales disadvantage. So I would ask for a consensus that we either delete that tax on the application of that tax on the vehicles that are in the fleet waiting to be sold. We can do it in one time, or we can split it and do half this year and half next year. Anybody got a thought?
What's the total cost to the city if we eliminate the tax?
Yeah, if you do it if you do it this year, just split it in half, it's about 22 grand. So it'd be about 40 grand altogether.
It's more than that.
$40,000 altogether.
Yeah. So if you want to do it in 1 year, it's a $40,000 item. If you want to do it over 2 years, it's about 20 grand a year.
Mr. Mayor, the actual number is $90,000, correct?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Mr. Mayor, we looked at the revenue that was generated from the car dealerships in Bowie. The way the personal property is set up, 50% of that inventory is exempt from taxation. So what we wind up having is about $90,000 worth of revenue in 2019. If we cut that and make it 25%, I vision that the city will lose about $33,000. If we just cut it to 0 and rescind the tax totally, the city will be out about $68,000
Oh, okay.
each year.
So I'd like to, I would suggest that we do it over a 2-year time frame. Any comments, suggestions?
I think I'd like to make a recommendation to take care of it in 1 year. And understand that the couple of the businesses are really struggling with this, and it's a matter of life or death with it, with an issue that was passed down in Annapolis. So it's just my feelings, but I'd like to hear from my colleagues too.
Dr. Earl?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My understanding is that it affects 2 dealerships. 3? Okay, 3 dealerships. I've also heard that there are other dealerships that are that abut the city. Let's say abut the city or contiguous to the city or around the city. But they're not in the city, and they're not in the city. My understanding is because the dealership didn't want to become in the city because they didn't want to be subject to the personal property tax. My understanding also is that a dealership decided that they were going to come into the city, and they also talked a dealer which is next to them to come into the city. So these two dealerships were annexed into the city, and there's a 3rd dealership that's also in the city. But they were under the impression that they were going to be paying, this is from what I'm hearing, a 1% charge per month. And they were looking at roughly about $13,000 per year. And they weren't expecting a higher fee than is currently being charged by the city. If they had known that, my understanding is they would not have elected to be annexed into the city. The mayor makes a point that the automobiles that are sitting on the lot, they are not the ownership for the most part of the dealership. They're owned by the bank. And there's a term which has been associated with that. They pay what is known as a floor plan. A floor plan is actually a tax that they're paying to the bank. Now, the dealership that is in the city of Bowie they're going to be subjected to, or they're going to have to pay property tax, real property tax. Okay, so they're currently paying real property tax now, but this tax that we're talking about now, that we have the problem with, or they have the problem with rather, is another tax, and it's called the personal property tax. So the idea is, can they afford to pay the personal property tax? And if they can't afford to pay the personal property tax and they leave the city, then they leave us with no real income tax. So I think we need to be mindful about everything.
It discourages the other dealerships.
And right, it discourages other dealerships that could come into the city and then be eligible, as far as we're concerned. I use the word eligible, where they would be subject to real property taxes. But because of this other tax, they have elected not to come into the city, and they don't pay any tax at all to the city. So I'm just setting the stage and giving you information that I think I have. Is my information correct to your knowledge, staff? Okay, so now you have the information.
Yeah.
Now you can act on it.
The issue is the county operates on the 0 rate, right? The county exempts them from this now.
Oh yes, my understanding from a third party is that the county does exempt them. But there's 3 municipalities. I'm giving you all the information that I have. There's 3 municipalities in the county that I'm hearing, they do have this personal property tax.
Well, this is the first year we would be legally authorized to do this because of the change of the state legislation this past year. Any other questions?
Yes, I do. You guys, thank you. I have a question of staff. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for allowing me to speak. Mr. Matthews, currently under the current structure of my question, okay, this is a two-part question. If you could tell me the names of the 3 dealerships which are in the city of Bowie. First, let's start there.
The Oarsman, Hyundai, March, Hodge of Bowie, and Descartes of Bowie.
Okay. And we're speaking tonight about just one particular dealer, right? Have the other car dealerships paid this tax previously?
Yes, they have.
Okay. And can you tell me what amount the dealership that's in question that has the issue is obligated to paying the city of Bowie under the current structure?
His current taxes for FY 2019 was just under $6,000. Prior to 17 and 18, the taxes were $65,000. So there was some maneuvering being done for FY 19 that his taxes were considerably lower, meaning that that inventory was not being counted for.
Okay, so some maneuvering on their part, our part, because if it was that's a really massive distant drop from $65K to $6,000.
Yes, the city doesn't have anything to do with the assessment of that inventory. That's all done through the car dealership, who reports to the state's Department of Assessments and Taxation every January. They determine the value based on cost or market, whichever is lower.
Okay.
Tell them what the final bill is right now.
Yes. The current bill for that particular dealership is $173,206.12. That includes the tax liability for FY 17 and 18 and any penalties and interest accumulated for the outstanding taxes.
So tonight's proposal is to eliminate what percentage of that 173?
It would just focus on the difference between what the tax bill would be for their personal property and the fleet. It would just eliminate that. Not any other taxes, the property taxes, all that would stay the same.
All those.
All it would do would be to, in my mind, make the city dealerships on the same level as the county, those that are in the county.
Those that are in the county.
Yeah, no other changes were made.
Okay.
Council, I just wanted you to understand also, it's just not only the vehicles that are included in that. We also have the basic furnitures and fixtures and non-vehicle inventory that's also part of that assessment that they pay taxes on.
And their bill went from $65,000 to $6,000. I'm almost now like wanting to have an audit done of how it declined so greatly. I wish my life and expenses could decline like that. That concerns me. That there concerns me. Okay.
Any other questions?
No other questions.
Mr. Wolfman?
So the proposal that we're looking at, you say they have a bill due from past years, is that correct?
Well, there is one dealer who is in arrears, and he owes the city $173,000 for 17 and 18's bill. He has paid the 19 bill.
Okay. So what we're speaking to is for FY20
FY20
future.
and 21.
So
This is prospective.
Yeah, and for all the dealerships involved for 20 and 21, either what I heard you all say was either reduce that from a 50% obligation, which you have now, of assessed value, to 25, virtually cutting the obligation in half, and/or zeroing it out.
I find it a little odd, same thing Councilman Gardner, the number went down from 60 or something, and, you know, good tax accountants, I guess, that figured out how to manage their thing. But now we're talking about a $6,000 bill. It's almost a nuisance tax, I would assume, for at that point for an organization of that size. I'm a little concerned about, I don't have the full information on it. I don't necessarily buy the argument that others won't locate here, because my understanding from when Melvin Motors was looking for an alternative spot, that they couldn't find one, in large part because there just wasn't the real estate. But I think the part, you know, is legit about, you know, what happens to the guys that are here, and I'm a little concerned about kind of the one-off treatment of it, and I'm not sure how that relates to, you know, kind of the next group that has an interest or the like, and I don't know how unusual this is.
I believe what the dealer did was cut his inventory to survive, but at the same time affected his sales, which was in effect hurting him also. If I'm not mistaken, but I think he's also offered some type of payment plan for the outstanding debt with the city, but has an issue. If it continues, I think it's definitely affecting the business and the survival of it. That's where it stands.
Well, let me see if we can get a consensus going. Is there any support for the idea on a prospective basis to reduce their liability from 50% to 25% this year and to 0 the next year?
Let me ask a question. Let me ask a question.
Go.
I hear your question, but my question would be, before I could arrive at an answer to that, I need to have a little bit more information from the dealership. First of all, I don't recall the owner ever coming before us.
Well,
He could have.
yeah.
We had the man that owned the barber shop. He came before us, didn't he? That was over signage. It was hurting his business. I'm not saying that.
He wanted to come before us tonight, but was refused.
No, that's not correct, Jimmy, because I talked to him. And I let him know that tonight was not a night where you had citizens' participation. So he wasn't refused to come. Let's correct that. He was given the opportunity and instructed that he could come at next Monday's meeting. He was instructed on how to do it under citizens' participation and told that he could get 5 minutes. But the question...
What, tonight?
No,
Yeah.
for next Monday.
Oh, yeah, he can come up.
Right.
Yeah.
But one of the things, you know, I suggested to him, why don't you talk to the city manager? Because the city manager has information on this, and y'all can look at, and then come before the council. Because right now, the council doesn't have anything to work with.
All right, well, what I'm suggesting to you is, divorce yourself from the numbers for a second. What I'm suggesting to you is in my mind, there's just a basic issue of fairness here. We're dealing with a business that is in a competitive business, and he's the dealerships that are in the city as opposed to the ones that abut the city. The ones that abut the city are not paying that, so they have an advantage over him.
They paid.
The ones that abut the city aren't paying.
No, they didn't, but the other two have paid.
Yeah, they have, yeah, the ones that are in the city are paying.
Right.
And he's paid up through the next year, I think, or paid up for 19.
Well, what I think I heard was he owes for,
He has some, yeah.
in arrears for 2 years, and that's what, 68,000 or something like
Yeah.
that?
But that, we're not, the divorce, this thing has nothing to do with, my proposal has nothing to do with eliminating whatever he owes us. My question is prospectively, based on the way the new legislation allows us to do this, is it fair in your mind to do this? Like I suggested that it's a matter of fundamental fairness. We have some businesses that are being taxed like this and some businesses that are not. And I just think it's a reasonable thing to do. And like you say, you and I both agree they don't even own the vehicles.
Right.
So we're taxing them on property that they don't own.
Right.
So to me, it's a simple thing. Either you agree with the idea to treat them the same as all the other dealerships in the county are treated, or you don't.
From that standpoint, I can see your logic on that, but what is the fairness between the other two who are compliant and he who is not compliant?
He's going to be compliant. It's got to be.
Is there support if I make a recommendation to just waive the full amount starting this year?
Can we just,
Waive the full amount starting this year?
can we just,
Instead of a step or incremental program?
Somebody,
you want
Wait
it?
a minute, you're speaking from down there?
Well, I was going to suggest if we could just get a kind of a summary of the circumstances and kind of look at it from, the numbers as well. It's a lot of numbers flying around. I don't have a real strong basis upon which to make a decision. Is that possible?
Could I suggest that we table this to next Monday and ask staff to provide us with a few things. One, an information about the general category, the tax overall, because I understand this is a specific subset of a tax that other businesses that aren't car dealerships are paying. Yeah, who's paying? Oh, I'm not.
Wait a minute, let's do one at a time.
Okay. So yeah, get some information on who's paying this tax, what they're paying it on, information on the dealerships, how it's impacting them. If the dealer wants to come next Monday and chat, we'll, I'm sure, be happy to talk to them. But otherwise, I think we could use some more information in general before making a decision on this.
I thought it was, well, we can certainly get a summary of the tax breakdown and who's paying what. It's really simple. We have 3 dealerships, and 2 of them are caught up. One is paid for 19, is in arrears for 17, 18. We'll get you that data, and in that we will include what that inventory tax is, as is stipulated by the state of Maryland. But there were 2 issues here. There's the issue of this particular dealer being in arrears for 17 and 18. I have referred that to the city attorney, and she is going to be talking with the owner, since he is in dispute of some of the cost, the penalties and interest associated with it. And I suspect she will bring this to you all when she's back with us. She won't be back with us until the June meeting, though, as you all know, and for your consideration in some fashion. So that's where that is with regard to the 173, which includes penalties and interest, which are standard when you haven't paid a bill for 2 years. Nevertheless, but as far as the other issue the mayor brought forth was in future either reducing or zeroing out the inventory tax for auto dealers. We'll have summary information emailed to you within the next week or so you can look at it and see what impact it'll have on us.
Dr. Sankar.
Yes, to also add to staff's suggestions, can we also have an update on the dealerships that are not a part of Bowie, but that are right in our community that are not impacted by this, so we can have just full awareness and context about that? And then also, with the new legislation, perhaps some background on what other municipalities have done or looking to do as well.
Well, I can speak to that one right now. We have the city of Bowie, New Carrollton, College Park, and Greenbelt, who all have dealers and all collected the inventory tax. All right, what we can do is communicate with the city managers in those locations and see if their councils have any intention of reducing or taking away. I know that some of the cities are rather dependent on the tax, College Park and New Carrollton. But we'll ask those managers if their councils are planning to reduce the tax. The other thing I want to make sure I understand, CM Sin Carter, you want us to talk to the dealers or communicate somehow with the dealers that are in close proximity to us or in the city?
No, you don't have to communicate with them, but just perhaps a listing of the dealerships that are also right kind of proxy to Bowie, but not a part of our city.
Gotcha.
They're in the county, so they're worth paying.
Sure. Got it. Pass it out.
So where are we?
So are we going to have them come in? Are we going to put this on new business for next meeting?
Well, the city manager suggested we wait until the city attorney returns if we're going to put it up.
Right.
Because she has all the historical data.
All right, let's,
Okay.
Also, she opined that since this particular person is in dispute with the bill, in particular with our, and that falls on her purview to review the situation and present it to you all, since that's a legal function. And she won't be with us until June the 3rd.
all right, we'll just discontinue the conversation until then.
And
All right.
will we do that? I'm going to ask you, Mr. Mayor.
What?
Would that be public or is that session?
Well, we got a public hearing next week to adopt a budget. So the only opportunity we would have is next Monday night.
Okay. We can do it. Can amend it afterwards, right? I'm not trying to kick the can too far down the road, but I'm not sure I want to squeeze it in either. Whatever. I just have to see if we're gonna push it off or delay it. I'd rather have the city attorney present as well.
All right.
I mean, with all of her information and her.
We'll see this week what we can work out then.
Okay.
Let me ask the
You want to do
question.
something? You want to get us out of here?
Let me ask the question.
Oh.
The amount of money that we're talking about as far as from 2019 moving forward, I mean, we're not even talking $10,000 out.
I think it's a minimum money. Well, like I say, there's an amount of money there. So what I'm looking at is,
Yeah, see.
No, I'm not talking about the arrears. I'm talking about moving forward.
No, it's 67,000 a year. Somehow they changed their own in-house accounting procedure and got it to $6,000. But ideally, it was initially $65K a year.
I don't know what the...
Yeah, but I mean, what is he reporting now? The last report date, he reported
net-
6,000, right?
The net,
And that's why,
wait a minute. Give me one number. The net difference, right now they're paying at a 50% rate.
Yes.
If it goes to a 25% rate, what is that net change in terms of reduction of income to the city?
it's going to be $33,847. $33,847.
So you divide that between the groups, each one of them.
Well,
Like 10 grand.
well, you can't
Yeah.
just generally divide it because the values are different for each dealership. But that's the net based on the calculation.
Okay.
So quick question, so even at 0%, there's still income coming in at 22. Is that the rest of their property tax?
That's correct. That is the other furnitures and fixtures
Furniture
and
and Xerox and things like that?
Yes.
Okay.
All the property tax they pay would stay constant. All of the rest of the personal property taxes they pay would stay constant. The only thing that would change is the tax that they're now paying, the application of that rate on the vehicles that are on their lot. Which I don't think they own. Like I said, when I look at this, I just don't think that the initial application of this tax ever anticipated paying tax, having them pay taxes on the fleet that is sitting there waiting to be sold. If you look at what the tax is for, and like I say, I think they can make a plausible argument. They don't even own the property.
So that's,
Look, if you guys are reluctant to do it,
I
we'll just...
have a question, though, of Mr. Matthews. Mr. Matthews, the other two dealerships which are in the city that we discussed that you said that are paying this tax, are they paying this tax at a comfortable rate of the $65,000 invoice that Ordsman initially had, or are they paying it at a comfortable rate of the
everybody's paying the same
$6,000 that they just recently got?
Yes,
Am
I think I
making
understand
sense?
what you're saying,
Okay.
but I think it's lower than the 65,000.
Lower than the
Yeah,
60?
but, I mean, it's
Comfortable
still-
to that of $6,000?
No, it's in the $40,000, $50,000 range.
Okay, because I'm still trying to figure out how they were able to get their taxes from $65,000 to 6,000 when the other dealerships are averaging, as you're, from what you just said, are averaging somewhere around $40,000 annually?
It may have something to do with the size of the fleet they got parked on their lot.
Well, I would even like to see that. I would like to see that, because I'm saying this, Mr. Mayor. My concern is that, you know, we allow one business not to pay taxes, and then we're going to have to open the floodgates for everyone to line up in here asking to be exempt from paying taxes. And, you know, then we have
We
our
didn't do it. It's the General Assembly that passed the bill to do this, not us.
I know, I know, I got you, Jimmy, Councilman Marcos, I got you totally. It's just, and then, you know, if we're gonna let the dealerships out, then what about Miss Smith and Miss Roberts?
Oh, come on now.
Oh, no, I'm serious.
No,
I have
now
to
you're
say
not
it.
being
No,
serious.
I am being serious,
You're
Mr.
going
Mayor.
off. Look, if you
No,
don't
I'm
want
not.
to do it, just say you don't want to do it.
I don't want to do it.
Okay, good.
I don't want to do it. I'm not going to vote to support this.
Okay.
I'm not. I'm going to let it be known. I will not let it be support. I'm not going
I got
to
you.
do this to City of Bowie residents, giving away money.
Got you.
No.
Any other business here? You want to move? You want to adjourn us?
I think Mr. Councilman
No,
Moore was going to say
No, I was just.
Okay. Yes, I'd like to move to adjourn.
Second movement, second. Any questions on the motion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Good night, folks.